Why should I waste my life on a woman who can't give me a child? Darren's words cut through me like broken glass. I stood frozen in our bedroom, his bags already packed. My heart pounded, but my voice was trapped somewhere deep in my chest. 3 years of marriage gone with a single sentence. My name is Elora. I'm 32. For years, Darren and I had tried to have a child. Each month brought hope. Each test brought pain. I had seen doctors, prayed, cried into my pillow more nights than I could count. But nothing prepared me for the moment he gave up on me. I need a real family, he said, his eyes cold and final. Someone who can give me a legacy. He left that night. I collapsed to the floor, shaking. My fingers clutched at the empty air he left behind. My world didn't just fall apart, it burned. And the worst part? The doctor had called earlier that day with new test results. I never told Darren. It wasn't me. It was him. He was the one who couldn't have children. But now he was gone. And he would never know. Unless I made sure he did. The pain twisted into something darker. I would rise not to win him back but to show him what he threw away. He wanted a legacy? I'd build one without him, and make sure he watched every step. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark holding the white envelope from the hospital. It still had Darren's name on it. I had begged the doctor to run tests on both of us. Darren had scoffed at the idea, but I did it anyway. And the truth was right there, plain as daylight. Low sperm count. Near zero motility. I stared at those words until they blurred. I had suffered thinking it was my fault. I endured the whispers from his mother, the judgment from friends, the silence from Darren. And all along it was him. He couldn't father a child. But he chose to shame me. He chose to leave. And now I was alone. Or so he thought. I walked to the fireplace, letter trembling in my hands. I could have burned it, erased the truth forever. But I didn't. I slipped it into a safe folder and tucked it in a hidden compartment of my desk. If Darren thought I would stay broken, he was wrong. That truth was my weapon now. And I wasn't done with him. Not even close. The next day, I deleted his number, erased our wedding photos, and made one final promise to myself. You will regret everything. But not with fire or anger. No, I would rise with grace, power, and strategy. I would become everything he thought I couldn't be. And then, when he finally looked back, I would be too far ahead to reach. I spent weeks alone in silence. Not grieving, calculating. I watched Darren's life unfold through social media. He moved fast. Too fast. A new woman appeared beside him. Her name was Naomi. Young. Bright. Everything he could mold. They posted photos smiling at dinner tables, laughing in parks, pretending the world was theirs. They even shared a post. Trying for our little miracle. Pray for us. I almost laughed. He still didn't know. But I didn't comment. I didn't speak. I didn't rage. I built. I returned to work stronger than ever, sharper, quieter. My boss noticed. Elora, you've changed, he said. Focused. Fierce. I smiled and nodded. He gave me more responsibility. What no one knew was I had taken night classes in finance during our last year together, just to feel like I was moving forward. I passed quietly. Darren never noticed. Now those skills were growing. By month's end, I was head of department. I knew Darren's company was struggling. He was reckless with money, and the firm he co-founded was bleeding investors. I had watched him ignore advice and dismiss warnings. Pride made him blind. But I saw everything. I began studying his business, its cracks, its weak links, its desperate need for funding. If I played this right, I wouldn't just win. I'd own what he left behind. And as for Naomi, she was part of the plan too. She just didn't know it yet. Naomi was more than just Darren's new lover. She was also his new employee. He had hired her as a marketing assistant at his company. Typical Darren, mixing business with pleasure and calling it vision. But I saw the gap. I saw the risk. And I used it. I created a fake LinkedIn profile using a name that couldn't be traced. Leah Morgan, financial consultant. I filled it with achievements, glowing references, and corporate charm. Then I followed Naomi's page. It didn't take long. She messaged me first. Hi Leah, I love your profile. Are you open to collaborating? My firm's looking to grow. The trap was set. We exchanged emails. I offered free insight, tips, a friendly tone. I talked like a woman who'd made it and wanted to help other women rise too. Naomi opened up fast. She told me everything. Their plans to rebrand, the budget limits, Darren's hot temper, even how he sometimes shut her down in meetings. I smiled behind the screen. She had no idea she was feeding her enemy. I gave her ideas that looked helpful on the surface, but would slowly bleed their finances dry if followed. And Darren, being the prideful fool he was, took Naomi's suggestions without checking them. The cracks in their walls were widening. And I hadn't even shown my face yet. But when I did, it would be the last thing they expected. I hadn't spoken to Darren's mother since the day he left. She never liked me. From the start, she treated me like an outsider, a woman who didn't fit the role. But it was the things she said after the divorce that stuck like needles in my skin. Maybe my son made a mistake marrying someone like you. A real woman gives her husband children. Next time he'll choose better. I never answered her. Not once. But now I needed her. Not to talk, just to watch. I created another account and started following her. She posted photos with Darren and Naomi, always praising Naomi's womanly grace and hope for the future. But the joy was short-lived. A week later she posted this. We are trusting God for fruitfulness. Trials may come, but love endures. It was subtle, but I knew what it meant. They still hadn't conceived. Which meant Darren still hadn't learned the truth. Good. The longer he stayed in the dark, the more he would hurt himself trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. And Naomi? She was now tangled in the same confusion I once lived in. But I had moved beyond confusion. I was rising. I donated anonymously to a fertility clinic in Naomi City, with a note. Ask the right questions. Look beyond yourself. Let doubt grow. Let the walls shake from inside. The truth has claws. And soon, it would scratch. One evening as I reviewed a funding report, my phone buzzed. Naomi had posted a new photo, her hand stretched out, showing a diamond ring that sparkled like fire. Darren stood behind her, grinning like the world belonged to him. He asked. I said yes. Forever starts now. My fingers tightened around the glass of water I was holding. Not out of jealousy, but strategy. He was making everything official. He was doubling down on the lie. And soon it would crush him. The comments poured in. Finally. You two are perfect. Can't wait for the babies. I stared at that last one. They had no idea how impossible that dream was. But I did. And deep down so did Naomi now. The seed of doubt I planted was growing. Quietly. Slowly. Beautifully. I spent that weekend finalizing a quiet buy-in to Darren's company. Through a shell investor group I had connections with, I acquired 12% of his firm's struggling shares. Not enough to own him. Not yet. But enough to whisper in the boardroom when the time was right. Darren was so busy flashing diamonds, he didn't see the storm forming behind the curtain. Let him plan a wedding. Let him smile for pictures. Because when the truth breaks through, he'll be standing at the altar of a lie. And I'll be waiting at the edge of it all, holding the truth he once threw away. Naomi's next message came late at night. Hey Leah. A weird question, but can men be the reason couples don't conceive? Like, medically? I stared at the screen for a long time. There it was. The crack I had been waiting for. I typed back slowly, carefully. Absolutely. Male infertility is more common than people think. You should talk to a specialist, privately. Sometimes it's not what we assume. She responded with a nervous emoji, then silence. I knew that silence. It was the sound of her whole world shifting. The next week she didn't post anything. No smiling selfies. No wedding countdowns. Just quiet. I checked Darren's company updates. He had canceled 2 meetings and rescheduled a pitch. Something was off. Good. Doubt was now eating through their perfect picture. I sat in my new office, a sleek glass-walled space in a firm that once rejected me, and smiled. My rise had been quiet, deliberate, but real. I had power now. And Naomi? She was alone in a storm she couldn't name yet. But I knew. She would confront Darren. He would deny it. He always did. Until the day he couldn't. Because I had a copy of that medical report tucked safely in my private drawer. And soon Naomi would get a copy of it too, wrapped in a gift box with no sender name. The truth is a gift. And hers was on the way. I sent the envelope on a Tuesday. No note. No signature. Just the truth. Inside was a copy of Darren's fertility report, bold, stamped, undeniable. The clinic's name, the doctor's signature, and those harsh words. Patient shows non-viable sperm activity. Extremely low fertility probability. It took 2 days. On Thursday evening, Naomi's profile photo vanished. No more smiling couple. No more engagement ring updates. And then, something better. She posted a quote. When truth hurts more than lies, the heart breaks twice. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling. The wave had hit her. I pictured the moment she held the letter, how her hands might have trembled like mine did months ago. I wondered if she cried. But unlike me, she had a choice now. She had information. She had an out. Darren didn't post anything for days. And then finally he snapped. He shared a bitter status. Loyalty is rare these days. But lies? Lies are everywhere. The irony made me laugh out loud. He had lied. He had blamed me. He had abandoned me. And now, for the first time, he was the one being left. Good. But I wasn't done yet. While they were unraveling, I was finalizing another deal. My investor group had quietly upped our stake in his company to 26%. We were approaching a critical point. Soon I wouldn't just whisper in the boardroom. I would call the meeting. And Darren? He'd be forced to sit and listen. The email came at 7:14 a.m. To all stakeholders. Due to recent financial concerns and internal instability, we are calling an emergency board meeting this Friday. Attendance is mandatory. It was signed by Darren himself. He was trying to take control before everything slipped. But it was too late for that. I arrived early, dressed in a sharp navy suit and calm silence. No one recognized me at first. Not until I took my seat at the long glass table across from Darren. His jaw dropped when he saw me. Elora? I smiled, slow and steady. Nice to see you again, partner. He blinked, confused. Then his eyes darted to the nameplate in front of me. Elora Quinn, majority shareholder, 26% stake via LMG Group. He sat back stunned. You're behind LMG? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The room filled with whispers. He tried to recover. This is a mistake. This meeting is about stabilizing the company. And I agree, I interrupted, voice smooth. Which is why I have a proposal. I slid a folder across the table. Inside, a restructuring plan. One that cut his salary in half. Removed him as CEO. Made him a silent partner. The board flipped through the pages, nodding. Darren's face turned pale. His empire was slipping through his fingers. And I was the one handing him the knife. Any objections? I asked. The room stayed silent. Just the way I planned. The boardroom felt colder now. Darren sat motionless, staring down at the papers in front of him. His once confident shoulders looked smaller somehow, like the weight of the moment was pressing him into the chair. No one defended him. Not one voice. He tried. I built this company. You can't just. You built it on lies, I said flatly. On poor decisions. You've driven it into the ground. I'm here to salvage what's left. One of the senior partners spoke next. We vote now. One by one hands went up. Vote to remove Darren as CEO. Passed. It was official. Just like that, he was out. His lips trembled. Is this revenge? I leaned in slowly, my voice soft but sharp. No, Darren. This is truth. The same truth you threw away when you walked out that door and blamed me for your own failure. He didn't reply. He just sat there, defeated. I stood and gathered my folder. The room buzzed with low voices and shifting chairs, but all I heard was the quiet roar in my chest. Freedom. As I walked toward the exit, Darren's voice stopped me one last time. Elora, was it really me? Was I the problem all along? I paused, then looked back at him with the coldest truth of all. Yes. And I walked out. But this wasn't the end. It was the halfway point. He had lost his title. Now I would take back my peace. I didn't expect a message from Naomi. But one evening it came. I got the letter. The report. I confronted him. He swore it was fake. But I checked for myself. I'm leaving him. I just wanted to say, thank you. For opening my eyes. I stared at the message, then closed my laptop. Not in satisfaction, but in quiet reflection. Naomi wasn't my enemy. She was a mirror of who I used to be. A woman who trusted a man who lied. Who carried shame that didn't belong to her. She was walking away not for revenge, but for freedom. That was strength. And in some strange way it brought me peace. The next day I saw it online. Engagement off. No photos. No explanations. Just a clean break. And Darren? He was unraveling. Rumors of his breakdown at the office spread like wildfire. He had stormed in, demanded a meeting, threatened the staff. But no one listened. He wasn't in charge anymore. The man who once stood tall beside me, who tossed me away like I was broken, was now a shadow. And I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. I felt calm. Because revenge had never really been about destroying him. It had been about rebuilding me. And I wasn't done rising. Next stop, the clinic. There was something I needed to do. Something I was ready for now. The waiting room at the fertility clinic looked the same. Soft blue walls. Muted music. Hope and heartbreak floating silently in the air. I sat with my hands folded in my lap, staring at the same potted plant I once stared at years ago. Back when I thought I was the one who was broken. But this time I wasn't here with shame. I was here with strength. "Miss Quinn," the nurse called. I stood and followed her into the hallway. Dr. Kalu smiled as he entered the room. "Elora. It's good to see you again." "I'm ready," I said. He nodded, understanding. We went over options, donor programs, surrogacy, adoption pathways. I listened to each one carefully. I didn't need a man to start a family. I just needed peace and a plan. "I don't know what the future holds," I told him, "but I want to take a step. My step." By the time I left, I had an appointment scheduled. Not a promise, just a possibility. And that was enough. As I walked outside, I felt the sun on my skin like a blessing. I had been buried in silence and shadows for so long. But now, every step I took was mine. No more hiding behind someone else's name. No more begging for love that never saw me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about rebirth. And Darren? He was just the man who pushed me toward it. Darren's name was trending. But not for the reasons he wanted. A leaked video surfaced. Someone inside the company had recorded his breakdown during a failed pitch. He cursed, shouted, threw a chair. The footage went viral. "XEO loses it after being ousted by ex-wife," the headline read. It was everywhere. I didn't leak the video. I didn't have to. The truth had a way of spilling on its own. Calls from investors flooded the company. Shares dropped overnight. His old allies stepped back. Some even called me privately to offer support. "Elora, thank you for saving the firm," one of them said. "We had no idea how unstable he'd become." I said nothing. Just smiled. Meanwhile, Naomi deleted all traces of Darren from her pages. She moved cities. Started a blog about healing. Quietly, I followed her progress. She had scars, but she was healing on her own terms. Like me. I visited a lawyer that week. Not to fight Darren. Those battles were over. I wanted to update my will. My estate. My legacy. Because this new life I was building, it had to be protected. Every piece of it. And as I signed the papers, I paused and asked one last question. Can a clause be added to make sure my child, when I have one, never ends up under Darren's guardianship no matter what? The lawyer blinked, then nodded. Of course. I smiled. Some wounds close. But others must be guarded forever. I wasn't expecting to see him. It was a small coffee shop near the clinic. I had stopped in for tea after another consultation. Something quiet, something soft. And then I heard his voice. "Elora?" I turned. Darren looked nothing like the man I married. His hair was messy, his face tired, eyes hollow. The weight of shame clung to him like smoke. He walked up slowly, uncertain. "I didn't know you came here." "I do now," I said, keeping my voice even. He nodded, then sat down without asking. I didn't stop him. "I lost everything," he said quietly. "The company. Naomi, even my mom barely calls." "I know," I replied. He looked down. Was it really me? The infertility, was it true? I reached into my bag. Slowly, I pulled out the original copy of the report, the one with both our names. I slid it across the table. He didn't touch it, just stared. "I blamed you," he whispered, "for something I caused." I leaned in. "No, Darren. You didn't just blame me. You abandoned me. You let me drown in shame while you lived like a king." He didn't argue. Tears welled in his eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness." "You won't get it," I said coldly. "But I'm not here to hurt you either." I stood gathering my bag. "You wanted a legacy," I added. So did I. But the difference is, I'm building mine with truth. I left him there, alone, surrounded by lies he could no longer outrun. A week passed before I sent the letter. Not by email. Not through a lawyer. A real, handwritten letter, sealed and delivered to Darren's apartment. I didn't write it to heal him. I wrote it to end the chapter. "Darren, there was a time I would have begged you to stay. A time I blamed myself, wore your silence like a chain, and cried into the walls you built between us. That time is over. You left me not because I was broken, but because you were. You couldn't face your own truth, so you made me carry it. But I'm not your burden anymore. I never was. I've built something new, without lies, without shame, without you. And when my child asks one day where their father is, I'll tell them. I chose peace over pain. I don't hate you. I just don't need you. Elora." I didn't expect a reply. And I didn't get one. But 3 days later, I heard from a mutual friend. Darren had checked himself into a mental wellness retreat. voluntary. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe he'd finally looked at the report. Maybe he was trying to fix himself. But that was no longer my concern. Because while he retreated into silence, I was stepping fully into the life he once told me I wasn't worthy of. I stood in front of the mirror, gently adjusting the soft scarf around my neck. Today was important. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about Darren. It was about me, and the little heartbeat now growing inside me. Yes, it happened. After months of planning, consultations, and hope wrapped in cautious silence, I was pregnant. Through donor insemination. On my own terms. No shame. No secrets. When the nurse told me the results, I didn't cry. I smiled quietly, deeply, like the sun had risen just for me. Now, standing in my new home, a cozy house with white walls, plants in every corner, and the gentle sound of wind chimes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I had left the city noise behind. Bought this home in a quieter town, not far from the school I'd already chosen. I was no longer chasing what was lost. I was preparing for what was coming. I painted the nursery myself. Soft yellow. Neutral. Warm. One day I'd tell my child the truth, not the bitter, broken pieces, but the strength it took to rise. I'd teach them love built on truth, not fear. And I'd raise them to know that being wanted doesn't start with someone else. It starts from within. Darren would probably hear about the baby through someone else. That was fine. He had already missed the chance to be part of this chapter. Because this time, the story belonged to me. It was raining that afternoon when the doorbell rang. I almost ignored it. I wasn't expecting anyone, but something told me to look. Through the window I saw him. Darren. Drenched. Unshaven. Older. I opened the door just a crack. The cold air between us said more than words ever could. Elora, he said softly. Please. Just 5 minutes. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. He wasn't stepping into my peace. I heard, he said. About the baby. I said nothing. I don't want to cause problems, he added quickly. I needed to say something. He looked down, then back at me, eyes full of something that looked like regret, but it didn't shake me. I know I destroyed everything. I blamed you for my own weakness. I see it now. All of it. Pause. I envy your strength. The wind stirred between us. I'm not here to ask for anything, he said. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Truly. You deserved better. I looked at him, long and quiet. You're right, I said. I did. He nodded, accepting it. I'm working on myself now, he added. I don't expect to be forgiven. You won't be, I said, calm and clear. But I hope you become someone worth forgiving. He swallowed hard. Goodbye, Elora. Goodbye, Darren. He walked away without looking back. And I stood there, hand resting gently over my stomach, the rain falling around me like a final curtain. That chapter was closed. The baby kicked for the first time. I was standing on my office balcony watching the sunset melt into gold, when I felt the small flutter in my belly. I froze, hand pressing gently against the spot. It was real. Life. Movement. Proof. Tears gathered in my eyes, but I didn't cry from sadness. It was awe. The kind of quiet joy that comes from surviving everything meant to break you. I walked back inside and sat at my desk. On it lay the outline for a foundation I had been working on for months. The Elora Quinn Initiative. A program for women who'd been abandoned, blamed, and silenced. Women who had been told they were less because they couldn't carry children, or because someone else wouldn't face their truth. It would offer therapy, grants, fertility support, legal advice. Everything I once needed and never had. I signed the final documents and sent the email to launch the site. I wasn't just healing, I was handing that healing forward. My child would grow up in a world where shame had no room at the table. They'd know their mother didn't run from pain, she turned it into power. Outside, the sky darkened. But inside me, a light had never shone brighter. For the first time, I no longer felt like a woman who had been left behind. I was a woman leading the way. And my legacy had already begun. The nursery was quiet. I sat in the rocking chair, a soft breeze drifting through the open window. My hand rested on my belly as I wrote the final lines of a letter. One I would give to my child when the time was right. To my dearest one. You were born not out of a man's promise but out of my choice. A choice rooted in strength, love, and truth. There was a time I thought I needed someone else to give me worth. I was wrong. You taught me that before you even arrived. You are not here to complete me. You are here to walk beside me in this life we've built together. I want you to know this, pain doesn't define you. People may leave. They may lie. But your worth is not up for debate. You are enough, always. And when you feel lost, remember this: I found light in my darkest moment. And so will you. With love that never ends, your mother. I folded the letter and placed it in a box filled with keepsakes: an ultrasound photo, a copy of the Foundation's charter, and a small necklace I'd worn the day I stood up in that boardroom and took my power back. Not just for me. For us. Because this story, our story, isn't one of revenge anymore. It's a story of becoming. It was a stormy night when I gave birth. The rain hammered against the windows. Thunder cracked the sky in half. Nurses rushed around me and my breathing came sharp and fast. But I wasn't afraid. I had walked through worse storms and survived them all. At 3:42 a.m., my child entered the world. A girl. Small. Strong. Perfect. The moment I held her, something inside me stitched itself back together. The broken pieces, the betrayal, the nights I cried alone on the bathroom floor, it all melted into the background. She didn't cry right away. She stared up at me with wide, calm eyes like she already knew who I was. Like she had waited just long enough to come exactly when I was ready. I named her Aya, which means miracle in a language my grandmother used to speak. Not because she saved me, but because she reminded me I had already saved myself. Somewhere out there, Darren still lived with the truth. Still tried to rebuild his name. But he no longer lived in my mind. His chapter was closed. This one, ours, was just beginning. As the rain softened outside, I cradled Aya and whispered, "We don't need anyone's permission to exist. We are already enough." She blinked and I smiled. Because this was the real legacy. Not money. Not a name. But truth, resilience, and the quiet power of a woman who rose after being broken. And built a future from the ashes. Moral lesson. Never define love by conditions or circumstances. True love is patient, loyal, and supportive, even in times of uncertainty or pain. When you abandon someone in their darkest moment, you may lose the most valuable person in your life. And some truths, once revealed, come too late to fix the damage done. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please take a moment to like the video, drop a comment, share it with someone, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything. Thank you for watching this video.